Will the Canon RF 200 to 800mm f6.3 to 9.0 image stabilized lens be an internal zoom or external zoom? Does the $2,000 price tag make sense for a big white? Well, stick around after this short break for all the answers. But first, subscribe to stay up to date on the latest camera news. And for all the minor news stories, all those news stories not quite big enough to have their own separate video, follow me on X, formerly known as Twitter. For much of 2023, I've been getting the same question over and over. Where are all the RF lenses that we're supposed to be getting? And when is Canon going to open up the mount for lens companies like Sigma and Tamron? Well, I don't have the answer to that question, but we're supposed to be getting 3 lenses announced next week on November the 2nd, 2023, which is a Thursday at least, Eastern Standard Time. And one of the lenses we're supposed to be getting is a 10 to 18mm f4.5 to 6.3 image stabilized lens. And the other one, which is creating an awful lot of fuss on the internet, is one of my, you can get a sense of when something's going to be big because anytime I put out a video on this, it just goes absolutely crazy. And that is the Canon RF Super Telephoto Zoom 200 to 800mm f6.3 to 9.0 image stabilized lens. And I'm going to get to you more on that shortly, but there's a third lens that we're supposed to be getting. And according to Canon rumors, that third lens is one of 3 that we've been told is coming soon. But we haven't confirmed which one will be coming on November the 2nd, referring to this third lens that I'm talking about. We don't want to get any hopes up for specific lenses until we can confirm it. There's one specific lens that will break the internet if it gets announced. And we hope it does. All I can confirm is that it's on our lens roadmap. And here's a brief look at Canon rumors 2024 Canon RF lens roadmap. Everything in green was part of the 2020 lens roadmap and has already been delivered. So what on this list, what in white, could be a big deal, could break the internet? Could it be the 500mm, the RF 200 to 500mm? Or what about that RF 35mm f1.2, a lens that had been rumored to be coming out since 2019? Or what about the 70 to 200 f2.8? I'm willing to bet that it's either the 35mm f1.2 or the 200 to 500mm. We'll just have to wait a little bit longer to find out. Who knows, maybe Canon rumors will come out with some more information today because I've got more information on the 200 to 800mm. But first, let's take a look at what we know because based on yesterday's video, I had a lot of questions. First of all, we're hearing from multiple sources, and even Canon Rumors has said they're getting it from unconfirmed sources, and even Canon Rumors has said a few people have mentioned that this 200 to 800mm will get the white paint treatment, along with a DO element. But they were very quick to say that it's unconfirmed. I had another source telling me that it is going to be a big white. So let's just focus for a minute here because a lot of people hear big white and think it's L series, and I'm one of those people as well. I have 2 examples that I was corrected on after putting out yesterday's video telling me, well, that's not exactly true. We do have an EF 40mm f2.8, that's a white lens, not a big white, it's a pancake lens, but it's not a traditional big white, and that was a special edition. There's nothing L series or premium about that lens. But then, of course, there's the EF 400mm f4 DO lens. And again, that's not an L series, but it's definitely a big white and it's definitely high end. So from the history of Canon making lenses on the EF mount and the RF mount, whenever we hear about something being a big white, we automatically assume it's going to be an L series for very good reasons. Regardless, or forgetting that, well, special edition 40mm pancake lens, pretty well every big white lens that Canon produces is a high-end lens and is going to have a price tag somewhere north of at least $1,500, at least from what we've seen in the past. So this lens is supposed to cost $2,000. And again, we're talking about rumors, although they are coming from multiple sources. The Camera Insider, Canon Rumors, Sony Alpha Rumors, Photo Rumors, Jan Wegener, lots of sources are telling us that this lens is coming out, telling us that many of them are telling us that it's going to be a big white, that it's going to be around $2,000 or 2,500 euros. Sony Alpha Rumors said it's going to be around $2,500. Others are telling us around $2,000. And if it's going to be around 2,500 euros, then yes, that makes sense. It's going to be somewhere in the somewhere from around $2,000 to $2,300 US dollars. It's not a straight, you're not doing a straight FX conversion here because there's also taxes and tariffs and other things. So usually when we see around 2,500 euros, the price tag will be around $2,000 to $2,300. So an RF telephoto zoom, a big white, $2,000, something's got to give here. Just look at this lens here, the Canon, well, right here, the Canon RF 100 to 500 millimeter f4.5 to 7.1. It's an L series with an external zoom. Really terrific lens. The image stabilization on this lens, I think, is going to be the biggest story. We were having a conversation last night in the comment section about one gentleman saying, hey, I love the 800 millimeter. I think that's great. I use it with a tripod. Another person said, yeah, but you know what? I miss all the shots if I use a tripod. I need something like the 100 to 500 millimeter, and shooting this handheld produces an incredible experience. It's a really, really good lens, but it costs $2,800. So imagining a 200 to 800 millimeter lens, L series, big white, well, of course, it's going to be north of that. So something's got to give, and that's why at this point, I just want to reaffirm that we don't know one way or another if this is going to be an L series lens, and nobody, none of my sources, none of anybody else's sources is saying that this is an L series lens. But again, I'm kind of waffling. I'm thinking, well, I could see Canon doing this, but then again, if we look at market forces, I can't see Canon doing this for $2,000 for a 200 to 800 millimeter. But let's take a look at some of the other specifications that this lens is supposed to have. Actually, I want to draw your attention to the recently announced Canon RF 10 to 20 millimeter f4 image stabilized STM. That's an L series lens, and previously that's another assumption we have of L series lenses, is that they're going to have USM motors, or a USM motor, one or two. It's going to have it in an L series lens. Well, the 10 to 20 millimeter certainly broke that rule of thumb, that idea in our head that it had to be a USM. It's an STM, and that's one thing I could see Canon doing here. So yes, an RF lens, 200 to 800 millimeter, an aperture range of f6.3 to 9.0, 9.0 at the 800 millimeter, and of course, not making it L series, but having it as a big white. Remember, the whole idea of being a big white is so that way when you're shooting outside, you're shooting in the heat, the lens isn't heating up, creating distortions which will impact your image quality, and of course, not getting really hot to the touch where you're going to burn yourself and really hate the experience. So all that for $2,000, something definitely has to give. And I think if we remove one thing from that and make it, let's say, a non-L series lens, but big white STM motor, that aperture range, I think for around $2,000 or 2,500 euros, that's certainly plausible. But now the headline for this video is internal or external zoom. And what do you think it's going to be? I have a source this morning, early this morning, telling me that it's going to be, you ready for this? Take a guess. Is it going to be like the 100 to 500 millimeter, an external zoom, or an internal zoom? Well, my source told me that it's going to be an external zoom. So just like this one here, the 100 to 500 millimeter, the RF 200 to 800 millimeter f6.3 to 9.0 image stabilized lens is going to be an external zoom. Again, we don't know about we haven't received confirmation yet if it is going to be an L series. So more information is coming out on this, and I get a sense that because there's so much anticipation, someone else is going to break it. It's either going to be me, it's going to be Canon Rumors, the Camera Insider, Photo Rumors, Jan Wegener, and who knows, maybe somebody else, because this thing is, anybody who puts something out on this, it's just taking off. So I'm pretty excited by this. Based on what I'm hearing, here's my honest thoughts. If it provides better image quality than the 800 millimeter f11, and you don't have that fixed aperture at f11, so better image quality, you know, I'm probably going to get this. I'm just thinking of all the times where I'm out shooting. I'll take the 100 to 500 millimeter with me. I'll take the 2x extender. And I hate switching out in the field because you're always risking dust getting into it. So I'll think, okay, where am I shooting? What am I going to be doing? And I'll put the extender on, but then that kind of limits me 200 to 1,000. I don't do the 100 millimeter, or do I take another lens to get up closer? And to have a range of 200 to 800 really covers off an awful lot. And that's without an extender. To have 200 all the way up to 800 without an extender, without the reduced image quality, that's a pretty big deal. So I'm very interested so far. $2,000 price tag. It's twice that of the Canon 800mm prime, the f11, but it does have a much wider range in its aperture. Not aperture, well, aperture as well, yes, but also it's 4 o'clock in the morning, not 3 o'clock in the morning today, so I'm still having trouble retrieving some of my words. But to be able to shoot between 200 and 800, not just 800, I think that's a really big deal. But I know it's not going to come close to the 100 to 500 millimeter. The IBIS on that lens, I know anybody buying an L series lens, you're not going to be surprised by how sharp it is. You're not going to go, wow, that's sharper than I expected. No, you're going to say, yeah, that's sharp. That's what I expect. The lack of aberration, the lack of color fringing. But the one thing that continues to shock me about that 100 to 500 millimeter, as you can see by these clips, this was all shot handheld on a boat, on a moving boat. And yes, most boats are moving, but even if a boat is stationary, the water's moving the boat, and to be able to get this so sturdy, and the slight movement that you do get, it's not distracting. And a lot of TV shows and movies will have that kind of movement, and it's just absolutely impressive. So I really like that lens. I think it's absolutely terrific. But if you want to stay up to date on all the latest camera news and rumors, don't forget to subscribe, choose all notifications, and follow me on Twitter. I appreciate everybody watching this video, that you're sticking around to this very end. And if you're interested in purchasing any camera gear at B&H, Adorama, and Amazon, then please consider using my affiliate links, because I get a small commission back, somewhere between usually 2 and 6%. But on some orders, sometimes it goes as high as 12%, and that's what funds purchases like this new lens, this 200 to 800 millimeter, but specifically funding is already in place for the Canon EOS R5 Mark II and the Canon EOS R1. Unless Canon does something absolutely stupid with the R1, or it's not a major update over the R5 Mark II, or half a dozen other reasons that you look at it and go like, I don't really need it. But if this truly is the master of everything, I'm getting that, the R5. And thanks to you watching these videos and using my affiliate links, I've got room, I've got some wiggle room to get this 200 to 800 millimeter. Now, if Canon also gives us that 35 millimeter f1.2 or the 200 to 500, I'm afraid I'm going to be tapped out. There's only so much lens goodness that I can afford. And again, as we heard a couple of months ago, Canon is supposed to be opening up the RF mount to companies like Sigma. And we've been hearing multiple rumblings coming from reps, coming from other people attending shows, telling us that, yes, something is going on. There's some sort of communication going on in place, and something's supposed to happen before the end of the year. And yeah, November's next week. Then it's December, so who knows? We got 2 months. This is the best sort of noise that I've been hearing about opening up for third party in a long time. We've received, what, 2 lenses in 2023 that are by third party makers or third party lens manufacturers. And both of them have been manual focus, and only one of them is, I don't even know if any of them have come to market. I think one was supposed to come to market by around October the 17th. But again, I haven't really heard anything. Nobody's getting super excited by these lenses. What we're looking for is that huge gap that Canon usually doesn't fill between $600 and what, $1,600, $1,400, that usually is populated by Sigma and Tamron, that they focus heavily on. So hopefully that's coming too. But that's it for now. Thank you so much for watching. Have yourself a great day and a great weekend. Cheers.